Good morning and welcome to the CPAT Symposium. My name's Elena Janot and I'm Vice President of External Relations here at NCCS, and it is my distinct privilege to welcome you this morning. During our main session at 12, you'll hear all about the exciting topics we're going to cover together over the next 3 days. But right now, we want to get started with a new feature of the symposium, our daily wellness session. I hope you enjoyed taking part in these sessions as much as we enjoyed planning them for you. To kick off our first day, we have Eating Well, Healing Never Tasted So Good with Chef Laura Pohl. Laura is the director of Smith Center for Healing in the Arts Nourishment Education Programs, and she has served as Smith Center's head retreat chef and nurse consultant since 1997. She's an oncology clinical nurse specialist, an integrative oncology navigator with over 40 years of experience in caring for people with serious illness. She is also a certified health supportive chef, professional musician, and Nia Body Mind fitness instructor. And I think she has like 10 other titles. She's, a very busy woman doing great things. And we're really excited to have her here to show you what she knows about cooking and centering it on culinary translation that's helping you translate a diet prescription to a plate of nourishing food. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Laura so she can share some of her knowledge with us. Laura, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you, Elena. Hello, everybody. I am delighted to be here to talk to you about my favorite topic, and that's eating well. So give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen. And hopefully, yes, this all goes well. Can everybody see this? Okay, I'm going to assume you can see my screen. So what you'll learn about in the next 30 minutes is about eating well to make your body inhospitable to cancer, some principles of healthy food selection, and I'll give you some resources to help you take it from here. A lot of the information I'm going to give today is found on this page of Beyond Conventional Cancer Therapy's website, Eating Well page. In addition to my work with Smith Center, I'm the senior researcher for Beyond Conventional Cancer Therapies. And by the way, Beyond Conventional Cancer Therapies founder, Michael Lerner, co-founded the NCCS in 1986. So I wanted to give a shout out to my boss and the co-founder of NCCS, Michael Lerner. My 4 guiding principles are: there are no good or bad foods. Foods just give information. For instance, soy might be considered a nice protein and fiber source and mineral source for many people. But if I eat it, because I have a food sensitivity, I get very loud information and feedback that tells me I don't think I'm going to continue to eat soy. So what's good for you at one time may not be good for you at another. So foods aren't good or bad in and of themselves for the most part. You can't eat dogma. I don't know if any of you, when you were diagnosed with cancer, had people coming to you saying, oh, eat this diet, eat this specific food, let me make smoothies for you all day long. No, not one size fits all. So keep that in mind. And if people start shooting on you, you need to take a deep breath and say, let's figure out what's right for me. If you don't remember anything else today, but this little line from Michael Pollan: eat real food, not too much, mostly plants. And we're going to be talking about that for the rest of the time, basically. And probably somebody said, eat your vegetables. You can't go wrong if you eat your vegetables. So before we get into some principles of healthy food selection, I want to talk to you about some principles about making your body inhospitable to cancer. And that's what eating well and other healing lifestyle practices can do for you. So tending your garden, we look at how people create conditions in the body that foster the work and functioning of healthy cells and are inhospitable to cancer. Terrain is basically that internal landscape and its influence on your health. There are lots of things that shape this landscape, like lifestyle, your metabolism, stress, what you take in from the environment. There's also this concept of the tumor microenvironment. Compare this microenvironment to the environment you live in. Like the quality of all the things you need to survive and thrive influences how your body grows, maintains itself, and gets around. Well, tumors depend on the environment around them to do all these things as well. So what we teach at Beyond Conventional Cancer Therapies is that modifying your body terrain to make it inhospitable to cancer is one of the most important things you can do for your health. If we use a gardening analogy, cancer is the seed of a poisonous weed and your body terrain is the soil. There are many weeds that we know survive better in poor soil, and by building a healthy inner terrain, you can deny a cancerous weed the environment it needs to thrive. In other words, it does matter what you eat. Even though for years in my work in the oncology units, I heard oncologists and even dietitians telling people with cancer, it doesn't matter what you eat, but it does. So you might say, well, Laura, if food is medicine, isn't it going to be hard to take or won't it taste bad? But I'm here to tell you that nourishment means that the food is also delicious and that you can weave it into your life and you can afford it. So if you've decided to change the course, here are some guiding principles. Remember that whatever you choose to have for your diet plan, it needs to be affordable. It needs to have food in it that you can find easily, and it needs to fit in your lifestyle to be successful. And that's one of the things that I really emphasize as a culinary translator is taking a diet prescription and helping people put it on the plate in a practical way. And then another guiding principle I use are these 8 principles of food selection. And here are all 8, and I'm going to go through each one of them. I use this whenever I'm planning the menu for a Smith Center Cancer Retreat, when I'm looking in my refrigerator, when I'm sitting in a restaurant, I think about how many of these principles can I use in preparing a meal or selecting a meal. Well, the first principle is whole. So that means eating food that nature provides with all its edible parts. For instance, eating an apple, skin on included, instead of drinking a glass of apple juice. If you enjoy eating chicken, eating whole food does not mean you eat the whole chicken by yourself in one setting, but it does mean that, for instance, you could cook the chicken with the bone in it. It'll be more delicious, it will be moister, and the minerals in the bone are going to be put into that meat that you eat. And then you can take all those bones and you can make a bone broth. Let's look at a whole grain. People get confused about whole grains, and it doesn't help the way they label foods to kind of fool you about this. But a whole grain, whether it's wheat or quinoa or millet or brown rice, they all have the same anatomy. So on the outer edge, you see this bran layer here. This little layer here is called the germ layer. It will germinate into a plant if you soak this and then give it enough light and space. And then this inner layer is called the endosperm. Well, where are the nutrients in a whole grain? Well, most of the nutrients are in the bran and the germ, which, by the way, are the 2 layers of the grain that get taken out when you refine a grain. So that's where most of your fiber is and most of the nutrients. And there aren't a lot of calories in the bran and the germ. The endosperm is mostly starch. So if you eat a piece of white rice, if you eat white rice, you're getting the endosperm. It's mostly starch, it'll give you energy, but it doesn't have fiber and it's nutrient poor. So when you take a whole grain and you remove the bran and the germ, you are removing almost, in some cases, 95% of certain nutrients in that grain. So the point I want to make is that all the parts of the grain act together, almost like a symphony orchestra in the life of the plant. And when we eat the whole grain, this symphonic harmony is passed on to us as nourishment. And here are some examples of whole grains. So there's quinoa, there's millet, brown rice, lightly pearled barley, bulgur wheat. I'm going to be making some tabbouleh this weekend in a cooking class, and I'll tell you more about how you can enjoy that and join it. But you could use either bulgur wheat or quinoa in your tabbouleh salad. Now here's something, it took me $10,000 I had to pay to learn it in culinary school, but I'm going to give it to you for whatever the price of admission is to this program today. So if you add vinegar or another acid to a carbohydrate containing food, let's say a grain dish, you will decrease the glycemic index, that is the effect of that starch that it has on your glucose. Also, you might have heard sprouted grains. Well, basically, when you soak a grain or a bean or a nut in water or some other liquid, you are sprouting it, because eventually, if it's a whole grain, that germ layer will sprout and it'll become a plant. So when you soak it overnight with like a tablespoon of yogurt or kefir or vinegar or lemon juice, you're going to make it more easily digestible. You'll increase mineral absorption, for instance, calcium, and it will cook faster. Now, here's just a beautiful picture of some whole foods that lower glycemic load and or lower inflammation. And we'll be looking at pictures of some of these foods in dishes a little later. Another principle is quality, fresh, frozen, fermented, or canned. So when possible, choose fresh, and I mean really fresh, because taste-wise and texture-wise, that's some of the most delicious opportunities with that food. But dehydrated food or naturally pickled or fermented foods also leave more nutrients intact. And nowadays, the way they freeze and can foods, they're still pretty nutritious, and you can use those when the quality fresh is not available. So the key word here is quality. Here are some beets. Natural. Now this means the food is raised or grown as naturally as possible without pesticides, chemicals, or hormones. It also means eating the food as close to the way as it looked when it came out of the ground or off the tree or the bush. For instance, eating a baked potato with the skin on versus a potato chip. And I love my potato chips. I'm not saying get rid of them totally, but prefer the natural way of eating it. Obviously, orange Jell-O is not a natural way of eating oranges. You might say, well, Laura, is organic really better? Do I need to buy everything organic? And let me just talk about that a little bit. Sorry to gross out the vegetarians here, but I just wanted to illustrate, these are two chicken livers from two different chickens. So the one on the left that's kind of a nice color and shine, that came from a chicken that was pastured. So he ate out in the pasture, it ate the things that chickens naturally eat. And the one on the right comes from a chicken where the package said all natural diet, no hormones or antibiotics. Well, why does the liver look that way? Well, probably because the chicken didn't eat really an organic diet and didn't eat a diet natural to chickens, and that liver had to work overtime to detoxify the chicken. So I'm going to go with the one that's been pastured. And if I eat eggs, I prefer to get them from pastured chickens. So have you heard of the environmental working groups, Dirty Dozen and Clean 15? If you haven't, this is a really great tool to use, and I've given you a link, or you can go on your phone and download the app, look up for the Dirty Dozen. But when I make a grocery list, I'm going to look to see what foods are in the Dirty Dozen and what are in the Clean 15. And basically what this is for that specific year, the produce that's listed on here, if they're in the Dirty Dozen, it means they were likely grown with pesticides and chemicals and that sort of thing. So if I find something, strawberries is on my list, and it's not organic, I'm not going to buy strawberries from that store that day. Asparagus is almost never sprayed with chemicals. And to buy organic asparagus at organic prices is sort of a waste of your money. So hopefully this will give you some idea of what to prioritize to get organic. If it's processed, so it's not just a natural food, you need to read the label. And look at this. This is a jar of peanut butter. Yeah, peanut butter, it's vegetarian. It comes from plants. What should be in it? Well, it does have peanuts in it, but this one has, my gosh, the second ingredient is corn syrup solids. The third ingredient is sugar. So read the label. Now here is organic peanut butter. There's one ingredient on the label, and that's peanuts. Now, don't be fooled. I'm a bad girl. Sometimes I dig in my friends' pantries just to see what they eat. And I saw this, back to nature, plant-based snacks. Well, doesn't that make you think, oh, it's going to be healthier for me than these other graham crackers that don't say they're plant-based? Well, most cookies and things like that are plant-based because they're made from flour, which comes from a grain, which is a plant. But if you look at here, the flour that's used in this is white flour primarily. It does come from wheat. There's sugar in here. Yeah, so there aren't any animal products in this, but does this make it healthy for you because it's back to nature and it's plant-based? So read that label, not just the front, but the back label too. Oh, we're just leaving strawberry season, and if you have to confront anybody in the next few days, just remember that if you feed them a fresh, ripe strawberry, they can't say anything mean or cruel in the next 15 minutes thereafter. They say the same goes for a banana too. Another principle is local. So there are lots of places now where you can buy local foods. I love going to the farmers markets and the stands for lots of reasons. You can get them in other stores as well. You can grow your own, a simple garden or in pots. And by the way, when you eat food that's locally grown, you're kind of reducing the environmental footprint of trying to transport food from far away. Also, when they transport food that's going to take a while to get to you, they tend to put preservatives on it. And also, you can go to farmer markets and say, hey, how did you raise this? And they can say, I'm not certified organic, but I don't put any harmful chemicals on my food when I grow it. And some of your farmer markets honor the SNAP program and senior citizen discounts. Now, another principle is eating foods that are in season. So when you eat the foods that are in season, it helps you adapt to your environment. For instance, if I were to eat raw salads in the winter, on cold winter days, and nothing to warm me, but just these raw salads, I'm going to feel cold, I'm going to feel cranky, and my body really wants something that's going to stick with me. It's going to be warming, like the winter foods of your winter squashes and potatoes and sweet potatoes and fruits that store over the winter, like apples. And these foods take better care of you when you eat them in season. Here's some chard is growing in my garden. And that's a nice alternative when the spinach is no longer putting it out. Another principle I really, really love is this one, in harmony with tradition. So maybe you don't eat a lot of whole grains and beans yet, and you don't know which ones would be appealing to you or even take good care of you. Well, if you look back to the foods that were traditionally eaten by your ancestors in the old country, you can get some idea of where to start with whole grains and beans, and really interview people you know who either came directly from the old country or still remember or were taught by their ancestors how to prepare those foods traditionally. And it's a great conversation. But you might find that if you eat beans and grains that are part of your ancestry, you'll digest them better and they will serve you better. and they'll taste better to you. You might feel this like, oh, wow, I feel like I have longed to eat this kind of food. Also think about food rituals and emotional attachments. Ask yourself, what are some food traditions of your faith and your culture? At Smith Center for Healing in the Arts in Washington, D.C., we have done programs with some churches and community organizations in the African American and African immigrant community. And we said, let's do a project that's related to health. And they said, well, can we do a cookbook of soul food recipes that are healthy? Is soul food healthy? I guess they were thinking maybe fried chicken and stuff like that is not so healthy. And I said, well, the roots of soul food are very healthy. And so people submitted their favorite recipes. And if they needed a little bit of tweaking here and there to make them more health supportive, we did that. And the other thing we did was make sure all the ingredients were available at the grocery stores in their neighborhoods. And we created this book. It's in its second printing, and they just sort of fly off the shelves. If you're interested in having a copy, contact Smith Center for Healing in the Arts, www.smithcenter.org. Another principle is balanced. And this is a dynamic process. Your body might require different foods at different times in your life. Certainly if you were undergoing chemotherapy or surgery or radiation, most cancer treatments sometimes do a number on your digestive system or your needs at the time. And so you have to be willing to accommodate to give your body what it needs. And even if you say can't eat whole grains for a while because it's too much fiber and you're having diarrhea from treatment, you can still find healthy foods within some of those comfort foods that you might need to eat if you're not feeling well. And healthy balance also means balancing for nourishment. You need all your nutrients in the food. And I like a rainbow a day idea. So choose fruits and vegetables in a rainbow of colors. That's where all those phytonutrients that give you those health benefits from the food, that's where they are. And by the way, green pistachio ice cream does not count as your green in the rainbow. You want to balance textures and taste and cooking methods. If you boil everything, it's not going to be real interesting, nor will it taste as good as if you saute some things, bake some things, boil some other things, eat some things raw. And you don't want everything mushy. You want some texture in there, some bites, some crunch in some of your foods. And you want to balance for quantity. And what is a way to do that? Well, one way to think about how much of what kind of food to eat is to think about the New American Plate. This is from the American Institute for Cancer Research. And think of at least 2/3 of your plate coming from plants. And, you know, potatoes are from plants, corn is from plants. So I'm not saying 2/3 should be a big mound of potatoes or 2 cobs of corn. You want to have some other vegetables in there. Remember the rainbow a day. But grains are plants, beans are plants, and so are vegetables and fruits. So lots of nuts are plants. And then the other third of the plate would be could be some animal protein like chicken, or it could be fish. Or if you don't eat any sources of animal protein, this third could be a high protein plant combination like beans and rice. And I'll give you some example of my plates. I took some pictures several days in a row so I could show you what I'm talking about. So here's one meal where the whole plate, the whole meal is all from plants. So I had collards and black beans and rice and orange and some plantain and a salad here. This plate has a small serving of tuna fish patties with salad, orange, and I made a curry tartar sauce. This is a breakfast, so I had oatmeal, so I combined the grain with nuts and yogurt, and that made complete protein. I love to eat vegetables for breakfast, and I had some leftover kale and apple salad, and had that for breakfast one day. One A few days I was not feeling well after I took my second COVID vaccination. And so a breakfast of something like a congee, which is sort of the Japanese version, I would say, of chicken noodle soup, can be very nourishing and easy to digest. Here is a sprouted green smoothie. I had made a chia pudding with stewed apples and yogurt. I had a boiled egg from a happy chicken. And my favorite breakfast, my breakfast of champions, is sunshine in the meadow, where I will saute a few greens, then I'll make a little hole in the middle and crack an egg and steam it, cover it up until the egg is done the way I like it, and doesn't last too long on that plate. Finally, a balanced view. People love to hear good news about their bad habits. So when we heard that dark chocolate was good for us, high in antioxidants, you might have been tempted to say, hey, I'll just go and eat a whole chocolate bar every day. It's good for me. Why not? So no one particular food is either a demon or a panacea. There's no magic bullets out there. Everything in moderation, including moderation. And finally, the last principle is that it has to taste great. If it doesn't taste great, it's not going to be truly healthy. Now, if you'd like to learn the steps to delicious, I would suggest there are lots of ways you can learn to cook. This Saturday, I'm doing a virtual cooking class at Smith Center. It's not too late to sign up. It's free, and I'll be teaching how to make some sensational, savory summer salads. I did not have time to do a demo for you today. I bit off more than I could chew by promising you that, but you can link to this demonstration from your handout, and you can watch this video and learn how to make a great little treat, carob banana smoothie. So if you're ready for a change, here are some ideas where you can find more help with that. So on this BCCT, Beyond Conventional Cancer Therapies page, we have some ideas on creating healthy habits. The Anti-Cancer Lifestyle Program has great modules on all the different things in your lifestyle that can be anti-cancer, and here's the one on eating well. The American Institute for Cancer Research has a great program called the Healthy 10 Challenge. That's a great one to look into. And also, if you join BCCT, you can see where the join button is. It doesn't cost you anything. We don't inundate your email inbox. You can get free access to Chef Rebecca Katz's online cancer fighting kitchen course. This is a great deal monetarily for you to be able to get that for free, and it's a great course. And I mentioned I'm doing a class Saturday. On Sunday at Smith Center, Chef Cara is going to do a demonstration of a summer soup. So if you want to sign up for any of those, do so. We'll have more cooking programs throughout the summer, so check out smithcenter.org for our cooking programs. And remember, it's not just about the food, but it's the eating experience is such a huge part of this. Whole food is not only whole in and of itself, but it makes us whole, and it makes us whole as a community. So get involved in the prepping, the eating, the yum, and the ah, because one cannot think well, love well, sleep well if one has not eaten well. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed presenting to you today, and I will get a copy of all your questions. If you didn't ask any today, but you think of some, please send them to Elena, NCCS, and she'll get them to me, and we'll send the answers out to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chef Laura. We really appreciate it. That was fantastic. And I think, something that we can all use in our lives. So appreciate that. And for everyone else, there were a few questions. We'll be sure to get those answered by Chef Laura. We'll send them out to everyone. There's some links on the side. We'll send those out as well. So